You know what? Hey, Black.
Okay.
It'd be good to have all of our department heads give an idea of what's going on. What are y'all doing?
I like giving my report.
Okay. Welcome, everyone.
We don't need to be doing this.
The first order of business is that we'll ask our very own city judge, Jim Conley, to step to the podium, and we will ask Jason Williams. Sir? Yeah. Are you still the city judge?
Last time I saw it, I wasn't.
The last time you find somebody you were, is that right?
Well, maybe there's an impeachment inquiry going on we don't know about.
I was the one behind that.
Look around the room. Do you recognize anybody here that you've maybe found before?
I recognize you.
Guilty as charged. So, Mr. Williams, if you would step to the podium, we'll ask Judge Connolly if you would to swear you in.
Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Jason S. Williams,
I, Jason S. Williams,
Police Chief for the City of Tullahoma,
Police Chief of the City of Tullahoma,
do affirm
do affirm
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
truly, and impartially
truly, and impartially
perform the duties
perform the duties
of said office
of said office
during my tenure
during my tenure
without fear,
without fear,
favor, or partiality,
favor, or partiality,
to the best of my skill
to the best of my skill
and ability.
and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Is that for me? Thank you. Thank you, Judge Connolly. So, Mr. Williams, let me recognize you at the podium for any comments that you would like to make and any introductions you would like to make. Please, sir.
Well, first off, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I've got some of my family here with me. Y'all please stand up.
Right.
And then my law enforcement family is floating around back over here in the corner. I believe they're already standing up. But they say it takes a village to raise a child, and this is my personal and my professional village. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it had not been for the investments made in these people into me. So just very thankful they could share this moment, and very honored and appreciative to be here. Thank you.
You're looking forward to your work, I'm sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Okay, our first, everyone is welcome to stay as long as you'd like. If you want to slip out, that's fine at any point, or you're welcome to stay.
We're out of here.
Most people use this as an opportunity to go. Okay, the first order of business, we have a public hearing on ordinance number 1529, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Tullahoma, Tennessee to rezone 3 parcels addressed at 611 East Monroe Street, Mitchell Boulevard, and 106 Mitchell Boulevard, from C2 commercial to I1 restricted manufacturing warehousing district. I know this has been through the planning commission, and but let me ask Ms. Moody or her designee, Mr. Lawson, if they would step to the podium and offer just a summary of what this does, and then I'll open the floor for any discussion in the audience. Welcome, Mr. Lawson.
Mr. Mayor. It was a directive from the Planning Commission to look at the corner, the northwest corner of Mitchell Boulevard and East Monroe Street. The way it was designated on the land use plan was that, or the land use map of the comprehensive development plan was that area was supposed to be zoned I2, but majority of it is zoned at C2. We looked at 6 lots, and we looked at 1 lot. We were going to rezone it to I2 is the way the land use plan was calling for it to be zoned, but there seemed to be some issues because of some residential property that abutted it, so we downgraded it to an I1. Took 4 lots. We had 6 lots. We were trying to avoid any type of spot zoning situation. Had a couple of folks that owned property in that area that didn't want their property rezoned. So we took those out and left the 3 in that we didn't have any comments from. And it was given a favorable recommendation by the Planning Commission.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Lawson?
This initially, when I was on the planning commission, we had some angst about it, correct?
Well, yeah, it was, well, actually, the Planning Commission, it went, it passed through it. It was at this board that there was some issues about the residential abutting the I-2 or proposed I-2.
Ms. Dunn, you had some questions, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been satisfied with them?
I think I-1 is more appropriate.
Okay.
So,
Do all the properties now currently meet the requirements for the new zoning, or will it have to change?
The properties that are, the way they're developed right now currently meet the regulations. You have UPS on 1 lot that's doing distribution and warehousing, and then of course the lot that's north of it's their parking area. So it's just a, parking area for distribution vehicles, 18-wheelers. And the other properties already has an industrial distribution facility already located on it with bay doors. It's not really meant for public to come in. It's mainly just for warehousing and distribution.
Other discussion? All right, thank you, Mr. Lawson. Anyone in the audience have anything to discuss on this particular ordinance number 1528? All right, seeing none, we'll conclude our public hearing and go into the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. First, the roll call. Ms. Golden.
Yes, Mayor Curley,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks,
Here.
Alderperson Berry,
Here.
Blackwell, here, Dunn,
here.
Noes,
Here.
and Mathis.
Here.
7 present.
The chair detects a quorum. We will proceed. We're very pleased that Reverend Ricky Wade is with us this evening. Ask Mr. Wade if he would step to the podium and provide an invocation tonight, and then ask everyone to please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend Wade.
Let us pray. Loving God, you are always worthy of our praise and our attention. And so as we gather here this evening, we ask your watch, care, and your blessings upon our board of mayor and aldermen. Be with them, guide them and direct them. Give them your wisdom and your sense of justice, that they may do that which brings about the well-being of all our people. And Lord, we lift up to you all of our city administration. Give them a servant's heart and allow them to know that we appreciate deeply their service to our community. And this day we give you thanks for Police Chief Williams. Watch over him and guide him. Give him your strength and your courage that he might lead with integrity. And be with all of our first responders, those brave women and men who place their life on the line to serve and to protect and to come to us in our time of need. And all of this we lift up in prayer before the throne of grace. In the name of Christ our Lord. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Wade. Appreciate you being with us tonight. So you see, we have a new person has joined us as our honorary alderman tonight. Very pleased to recognize and welcome Miss Brittany Lynn. She has a very impressive resume for such a young person. She is a member of the Middle Tennessee School Band Orchestra, an all-girls district tennis team, National Honor Society, National English Honor Society, Mu Alpha Theta. And she's taken a number of honors classes: English 1 honors, English 2 honors, Algebra 2 honors, Geometry honors, Pre-Calculus honors, AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC, Biology honors, Chemistry 1 honors, Physics 1 honors, World History honors, Spanish 1, 2, and 3 honors. Very impressive. She's active in has been active in the Tullahoma High School Band, the FBLA, Tullahoma Swim Team, the Student Council. She served last year as the junior class treasurer. This year she is the student body vice president. She is the vice mayor of the Mayor's Youth Council. She's active in Special Olympics, Caring for Kids, Algebra 2, tutoring, and if that's not enough, she works at King's Buffet as well. So, amazing young lady. I'll share, and I hope she doesn't mind, at one of the previous Mayor's Youth Council meetings, there were about 25 students sitting here, and I had to go downstairs. It was after one of our regular meetings, and I had to go downstairs to sign something or do something. And by the time I came up here to preside at the Mayor's Youth Council meeting, I was about 5 minutes late. And I walked in, and Miss Lynn is presiding, and with no authority to do so. I mean, she wasn't an officer or anything, and she was in charge, and so impressive. Later that meeting, I was asking for ideas at the Mayor's Youth Council, what they wanted to do this year, and with no reflection on any of the members whatsoever, seven of the nine ideas came from Ms. Lynn. And so I look forward to really big things from Ms. Lynn. So, Ms. Lynn, thank you for being here today. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I'm a senior in Tullahoma High School. I enjoy playing tennis and swimming. I enjoyed spending time with my family, and I'm very dedicated, and I am determined to not only influence our community and hopefully any community I am a part of in the future.
Do you want to share maybe what your plans are after graduation?
I am applying to 9 different colleges. I hope to get into University of Chicago or New York University, but if I don't get into any of them, I hope to go to UTK and major in accounting or business.
Very good. As I said, very impressive young lady. So, Ms. Lynn, if you would stand there at your desk, and we'll recognize you with a certificate as being the honorary alderman. You fixed the flag so nice.
Yes, sir. Still wrestling.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Moody, I recognize you at the podium now for special recognition.
Thank you. It is, as we've been doing every month for several months, and you are aware, we like to recognize some of our employees for their outstanding achievements. And this month, I'm honored to recognize some employees of Tullahoma Airport. And I'd like to ask Dr. Daniel to join me. Dr. Daniel nominated these employees, recognizing the efforts and their professionalism in hosting the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association a few weeks ago. As you know, we had over 600 aircraft visit Tullahoma over 2 days, and 9,500 people attend. And I can only imagine how many times that fuel truck ran all over, filling up airplanes.
I'm not sure you can.
No. I do know it was probably over 10,000 gallons of gasoline. So very successful event. Really makes Tullahoma known all over the world because of this small airport and its tremendous, tremendous way that we're able to host an event like this. I believe we're the smallest airport that's ever hosted this event, and we're also the only community that's been visited a second time. And so we may have also heard a few comments that this was their favorite location. So we're just honored by all of that and really want to honor the employees who represented us so well. John Glass, our airport manager, Jimmy Chapman, and Cynthia Duke. And they're here tonight. They'll come up. Dr. Daniel, do you have anything you want to add?
We are really fortunate to have employees like this. They're almost like the postal service. It doesn't matter what the weather is, how cold it is, how wet it is, how snowy it is. They're there fueling airplanes, dragging airplanes around, and always doing so in an absolutely safe way, which means a lot to them, and it means a lot to us also. Great team.
I think that's right. You are our welcome center, for lack of a better term. You're the face that they see first in Tullahoma, and we are so honored to work with you and thankful to have you. So thank you so much. And we'll take a picture with you, please. Come up here. Yep. This.
That's fine, right there. Just right. That'd be fine.
Ms. Moody, we have several other members of the airport authority here. Do you want them to be in the picture as well?
Let me get just them first.
Okay. All right.
And wait for it. 1, 2, 3. Look up. 1, 2, 3. One more. Excellent pictures. And what do you want together?
I know Mr. Paul Sturks is here. Alderman Ray Nolan. Oh. Jennifer Benetti, Ron
That's fine. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we don't need to do double rows. That's good. Come on up, Betty. Go ahead.
Oops, sorry.
Ms. Moody, thank you very much. Mr. Norris, let me recognize you for any comments that you'd like to make regarding the recognition tonight.
Well, these, the ones that were recognized are key members of that team. They have a larger team, the ones that keep the grass mowed, the ones that keep the lights working. The whole group is just great to work with. And I will say that not only do they have an AOPA fly-in 2 weeks ago, but this past weekend they had the beach party. And I had the opportunity of welcoming guests there at that event. And they fly into our front door, our airport, all 300 airplanes, the beach airplanes that came in this weekend, and stood in line and listened to people from Canada, from Calgary, Canada, from Bangor, Maine, from Colorado, come to Tullahoma and say, this is the best weekend that we have every year coming to Tullahoma, Tennessee. That made me feel good.
Yeah, you should. Make all of us feel good. Yeah, very nice. Okay, thanks, Ms. Moody. Okay, let's see. We have, I saw Mr. Graham here. Where's Mr. Graham? There he is. Okay. Mr. Graham, he's got a presentation, a short presentation he would like to make regarding an issue that has developed potentially in Tullahoma. So, Mr. Graham, let me ask you and your guest to visit the podium, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce Tyler Wakefield, who's our area forester. And of course, I'm the chairman of the tree board. And recently I learned that the Emerald Ash Borer, I'm going to call it EAB, was recently spotted in Coffee County. And so I want to know from a standpoint of what its impact is and to what extent the city might be impacted. And there are two ways I want to do this. One is I'm going to give you a survey that I did of the trees that are on public property, the ash trees. And number two, Tyler is going to talk about just the extent of the damage this insect will do and what can be done about it. And he has relevant experience with it with respect to the city of Baltimore. So he has that for us. First of all, I want this to be thought of as an informational briefing only. We're just beginning to talk about this. So I want to do two things. I want to hand these out to you and then talk as you look at these, all right? Just want everybody, these are not one for everyone here on this, but just what is the Emerald Ash Borer and what can it do to our ash trees? So, I did a survey of the ash trees on public property, and it might not be totally accurate. I covered all the major thoroughfares, and then our forester, Ian Anderson, went into a public park, and he found only, let's see, 6 ash trees. So, first of all, we have a limited number of ash trees in the city, but its economic impact can be significant indeed. What I show on this table is the average diameter is 30 inches of our ash trees. We have on the back to 51 total that we found. And so you look at the cost of removal of these trees, and that is proactive removal, not after they start dying and you have to use a bucket truck, but just proactive. And the cost per injection of an insecticide. And the final column is benefits per year. So if you go down to the bottom of it, you'll see that the cost of removal of all these trees, and I'm not recommending anything here, I'm just saying, just look at these numbers, is on the order of the cost of just one injection of this insecticide. So we're talking about a costly process, and obviously the city will have to make decisions on what trees are important. You may not want to take all of them and treat them. You may want to remove some of them because they are, in fact, diseased. But if you are going to do the injection program 1 every 3 years, the cumulative cost of that would be $182,000 for these trees, all of them. And if you did 5 of them or a select number of them, obviously it's less. But I do want to show the final column, which is benefits per year. And this is the benefits to the city from many different viewpoints. The aesthetics, the rainwater sequestration of carbon, removal of contaminants from the air, cooling effects, and this can be put in numbers, and that number is $330,000. So I want to show that from the standpoint of aesthetics and benefit to the city, the benefits outweigh the cost. This is based on my first study. I want to tell you that. Now I want, any questions at this point for me? All right. And I'll ask Tyler to talk about his experience with respect to this pest and what he's done in Baltimore.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph, and thank you guys for having me here today. It's always great to get out and talk with folks about this stuff. So what is the emerald ash borer? So the emerald ash borer is an exotic beetle from Southeast Asia that came over to this country in the mid-90s and was introduced in the Michigan area. It was discovered in 2002 and started spreading from Michigan. And at this point, it's in pretty much every state east of the Mississippi River. It has killed millions and millions of trees over the last 15 years. So ash trees are extremely important from a timber standpoint, but many people don't realize that it was planted widely in streets and parks in communities across the United States. So as emerald ash borer started spreading across the U.S., communities were being impacted greatly as the beetle started killing trees. These communities had to pay for the cost of removal, had to deal with all the hazards associated with these trees dying along their streets and their city parks, had to deal with complaints from the public of how bad it looked and all that kind of stuff. So as this beetle kept progressing across the eastern half of the United States, folks started opening their eyes and said, wow, this is a really big issue. It was introduced in Tennessee, I believe it was a little over 10 years ago, and it was introduced in the Knoxville area and started spreading westward. And we just found it in Coffee County this year. So it is here. We just don't know how wide or how bad the infestation is yet. So it's in Coffee County. It's also in Moore County. So I think you guys are, in the crosshairs right now as far as when it'll get here. But the big thing is, what kind of impact is it going to have on your community when it does get here? So Ralph and the tree board are 10 steps ahead of the game by getting an inventory in place. So they went out and measured all the ash trees and figured out where they were, which is a huge part of trying to figure out what kind of impact it's going to have on your community. So Ralph said about 50 trees, I believe. So when you start looking at that number, you start thinking, okay, is it in power lines? Is it on busy streets? What kind of hazards are these going to pose to the public as these trees start dying? Because these trees die very, very quickly. About 60 to 70% of the mortality in an ash population happens within a 3-year window. So a lot of communities were kind of caught off guard. All these trees died, all their community trees died within a 3-year window, and their budgets took a big hit, having to spend all that money on removals and replacements within that 3-year time frame. So getting out ahead of the problem. So right now you guys don't have emerald ash borer, a known emerald ash borer infestation within the city limits right now. But not to say it's not here, but getting out ahead of it, figuring out what trees you want to remove, what trees you want to treat, if you're going to replace trees. That way you'll have less impact on your budget. You can spread out the cost as long as possible. And you can potentially save a lot of trees at this point. So if you decide to save some trees, you have some trees in the community, you think, hey, this is a great tree for aesthetic value. We want to keep this tree because it's a historically important tree. Right now would be the time to start thinking about, okay, we need to line up some treatment, people to come in and do the treatments, set aside some money in the budgets, and figure out how we're going to do this going forward, because it is either an annual treatment or every 3 years. So there's an interval there. You have to continuously do these treatments in order to save the tree. So that Ralph mentioned the cost of removal, that's a one-time cost. But if you save the trees for up to a couple decades, you have the continued benefits gained from those trees, like stormwater uptake, aesthetic value, carbon sequestration, all that good stuff, as you're saving that tree for decades into the future. So it's things to kick around. I mean, it's the benefits, as Ralph pointed out, outweigh the cost. So removing those trees, you're losing out on all those benefits you could gain over those couple decades of treatment. So some of the communities, I actually did this in Maryland. I did this exact thing. I went around and set up community response plans for communities in Maryland, and basically I sat down and talked with people that could determine what trees to remove, what trees to replace, which trees to treat, and what it would cost them. And a lot of folks, they would decide to treat some, remove the most hazardous trees, but of course in every single scenario, the sooner you get in front of it, the better off you're going to be. So you guys are in a good position to get out in front of the problem, and we're here to help provide information and assistance as we can, and help you guys set up a plan moving forward.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
So you mentioned earlier that most of these trees were planted on public property for whatever reason, but they're also on private property as well. Any indication of, are there whole neighborhoods full of these trees?
I found one street near Summit, right across from the East Elementary School, and there were 5 of these trees right on the property, and I spoke with the owner and said, realize this is happening. So that brings up a good point, and that is that we need to make it publicly aware too, not just what's on private land, our city land. And I intend to get on television, and Tyler and I both will talk about how to identify, do I have an ash tree? Do you know what an ash tree looks like? You may not know this. And so first of all, the scope of the problem is that we don't have that many known ash trees here. But there's some significant ones. They're on Washington Street, for instance. So this is just the beginning of, like I said, it's an information thing. Be aware of it, and we're going to, probably in November, we're going to get on television and talk about it, so the public will know about it too. So thank you for this opportunity to talk about it, sir.
Any questions or observations? Ms. Young?
Do you have some success stories, like some of these cities in Michigan that have been with these borers for a while, that they've been able to kind of tackle this, and now they're not running into the same problems anymore?
Yes. There is Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay.
That's one, and I read this study, and in the abstract they said that the benefits outweigh the removal of these things. There are 2 ways to remove it. One is proactive. You say, all right, we're going to lose them all. Let's just cut them down and avoid the cost. It takes maybe 3 times the cost to take down a dead tree. So they perform the injection. It goes into the vascular system of the tree, and it kills the beetles, the bugs, excuse me. And so you can invest in it and keep the trees that you want to keep. They will all die if not treated, period. So, yes, sir.
Is there a natural predator to this beetle?
Well, there is, but it doesn't do a good job of controlling the population. So woodpeckers actually do a great job of finding the beetles, and they actually eat the larvae under the bark, but they don't eat enough to control the population. So there is a non-native insect they're releasing. It's a parasitic wasp that attacks emerald ash borer, and it's from its native range over in Asia, and so they're releasing that, but it hasn't been able to keep up with emerald ash borer population growth. The hope is that once emerald ash borer moves through the area, all the ash trees die, emerald ash borer population crashes, these parasites can kind of get a grip or get a handle on the population after that.
So it begs the question, is an ash tree a native tree?
Yeah. White ash and green ash.
Why didn't we have the emerald ash borer here? Why did it pick our ash tree?
Well, they actually have a ash tree in Asia, Manchurian ash, and it has
a different variety though.
It co-evolved with the emerald ash borer, so it has a natural resistance to emerald ash borer. Our native ash trees did not co-evolve with emerald ash borer, so when it was introduced, they don't have any type of resistance to it. It's similar to chestnut blight. Are you guys familiar with that? So Chinese chestnut's resistant to chestnut blight because it co-evolved with chestnut, the blight, which was over in Asia. Our American chestnuts did not co-evolve with the blight. So when the blight came over here, kind of wiped it out. So.
Can we just build a wall to keep them out? So this is perpetual, right? So this is 24 years. We still, as long as those trees are alive, we've got to keep injecting them every 3.
The hope is that after the EAB wave moves through all these all the other surrounding trees that hadn't been treated or dead, emerald ash borer population will crash, and then you guys won't have to treat trees as often. So instead of a 2 or 3 year treatment, you guys can space it out to maybe a 6 or 7 year treatment. So you guys can save a little money that way, but it will be a constant thing you have to continually do, or else you risk losing those trees.
What's the injection actually doing? Is it killing a beetle? Is it keeping the tree alive? Is it?
Yeah, so what it does is it puts insecticides into the tree's vascular tissue, so they do the injections around the base of the trunk. It takes up that insecticide and it kills any larvae, it kills any beetles that feed on the leaves, it prevents the larvae from feeding on the vascular tissue within inside the tree, and it stays within the tree's system for 3 years. So
Does it kill any other bugs though?
it does affect the native insects on ash trees. So there is a little bit of a toss-up. You know, you gotta, is it worth saving the species, or you know, you risk affecting the native insects as well. So yeah, that's a good point.
Good discussion. I appreciate the tree board's initiative and your presentation tonight. Yeah, we look forward to next steps. Thank you, Mr. Westfield.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, Chief Shasteen, I believe, is here, and do you have the original proclamation with you? Okay.
It's already signed.
Okay. So let me just share with you, well, I want to ask each of you a question, and I've asked you this before. I'm not going to embarrass anybody, you don't have to raise your hand or anything. How many of you have an escape plan in the event of an emergency in your home? So I'll ask at the meeting, I encourage each of you to meet with your family and have a discussion and establish an escape plan from your home in the event of an emergency. You know, that can save a life. Chief Shasteen, anything you want to add to that?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yep. So we'll ask again in 2 weeks and encourage all of you, if you don't have an escape plan, to devise an escape plan.
In all fairness, it's just me at my home.
It'll be a short plan.
It'll be a short plan.
Probably just a sentence will do it. But it is serious, and so I encourage each of you to have an escape plan. But I was contacted recently by a group in the governor's office, and you have a copy of this, but imagine a day without water day. Whereas Tennessee's 6.7 million residents rely on our 60,000 miles of rivers and streams, high-quality aquifers, and groundwater, along with our more than 100,000 miles of public water infrastructure to provide drinking water to greater than 90% of the state's population. And whereas access to clean drinking water and managing water responsibly is critical to Tennessee communities' public and environmental health and to a high quality of life through economic commerce, power generation, and recreation. Whereas every individual can make a difference when it comes to conserving and saving water to protect this critical resource and promote a healthy economy and community. Whereas the state of Tennessee recognizes that water is essential to our quality of life and economic competitiveness, and acknowledges the importance of educating the public about the value of water through the Imagine a Day Without Water campaign. So they've asked that we declare October 23rd as Imagine a Day Without Water Day. So we're pleased to do so. So we will share with the governor's office that we have offered this proclamation. Okay, we're ready for comments from citizens. Anyone in the audience have anything to address the board that's not later on the agenda? Seeing none, we will proceed. Ready for board reports. Mr. Mathis, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had something on my mind for a while now. And it's relative to our reports that the aldermen do. And I've had a lot of different people within this city who have said they felt like that they would get a lot more out of it if we would allow our board, not our board, but our department heads to get up there and say what's going on within that department. They can relate to it a lot better if that's happening. And I intend to agree with them. I think it'd be good for for them to get up and say, okay, this is what's going on here, and this is what you need to look forward to, and go from there. And each one of them do that. Even if you did it once a month, that would still be a good thing to do, I feel like.
So they're not our department heads or Ms. Moody's department heads, but I respect what you're saying. So let me think how that might work. I'm not disagreeing with you, but let me visit with Ms. Moody and see what suggestions she might have. And maybe we can implement that. Is that okay?
That's bad, man.
Good. Anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Barrett.
I'll keep it short. I think that's a great idea. I don't know whether they think it's a great idea, but I think that they'd rather listen to that than me ramble. I'll keep it short. Taste of Tullahoma, I believe, is the 17th. Is that Thursday?
Thursday.
That's correct, yes.
That's going on. I believe tomorrow is the Super Mixer at Montlow. Chamber meetings next Tuesday. I've got a town hall tomorrow night. Lyle Russell, not works with the city, but not affiliated with the city, is going to come and give a presentation over bullying. We're going to have kind of a discussion over effects on our community and just kind of an open conversation. That's it.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Blackwell.
Well, I wanted to say, I went to the planning and coordinating meeting last week, which I feel like is on televised, which I think is kind of what you're talking about. That if people do want to watch it, if we can't figure out how to have them do this here, they could always watch online too, the planning and coordinating meetings, because you hear from the department heads there, and I find that to be completely enlightening and fascinating. So, and then we've got our planning commission meeting coming up next week, as well as the Board of Education meeting, I'm pretty sure as well. So I'll be at those, and I'll have some more to report in 2 weeks.
Very good. Thank you. Dr. Blanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, I hadn't had any outside meetings, but I do have TUA tomorrow. I know we're +3 for the month of September in sign-ups for Light Tube, so we're still trending upward, and we're going to hit our goal one of these days. Only other thing I'd say is Shop Tullahoma, and today is I'd like to tell June Ellen happy anniversary.
Very nice. Is she watching?
Sometimes she does.
You want to share what year that is?
30 years.
Wow. Congratulations. Very nice.
My partner in crime.
Yeah. Well, you did a good job. I did the last sentence, I think. Ms. Jones.
Well, we had a housing authority meeting not too long ago, and they are finishing up a playground. I'm sorry, a playground on the Cedar Lane apartments pretty soon. So that's coming together well. And we had a Go Green meeting that Mr. Bob Bates led for me this past week. So, but yeah, we're just rolling with it. So, yeah.
Very good, thank you. Alderman Norris.
Mayor, first I'll apologize for my tardiness today. It seems that we have a railroad in our town. Sometimes those trains pass very slowly. That's my excuse. Okay. I did attend an airport board meeting by phone-in this past week as I was out of town. And that brings me to another part of my story about being out of town. This town I visited is about 11,000 people, and they had about 10 wonderful restaurants in the town that size. I tried to sample all of them. The other thing is you never hear a train in that town. You don't have to worry about getting there on time because there are no trains that go through. And through the middle of town, there's not a single trailer truck. It's wonderful. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Miss Lynn.
There is at the high school. There's a debate team on Wednesday, an FBLA meeting on Wednesday. There is also a football game on Friday night.
Lawrence County.
So on your debate, are you on the debate team?
Yes, sir.
So what do you have a moderator that will suggest a topic
Right now, Miss Sisk, she's the one who is giving us topics and we debate on them. And they're really, right now, it's not very controversial. It's like cookies, are chocolate chip cookies better than any other cookies? Are cats better than dogs and stuff like that?
Dogs are better. Most of the time.
But have you had to take a position on something for the debate team that you did not agree with?
Many times.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mainly lost, you know.
Well, thanks again for being with us tonight.
Can I tell Mr. Noyes, my colleague, something about trains?
Please do.
Just to enlighten you, I lived next to the train track at 408 North Atlantic Street for quite a number of years, 12 to 14 years. And you do get used to the trains. You do not get used to them blocking you. But train traffic at one time was like 36 trains through this town a day. And if we have train traffic, a lot of it, that means the economy is good. And back when we were in the downturn 10 years ago, it was a noticeable difference that we didn't have train traffic through this town. So I still hear, you can hear the train blowing in this town from 10 miles away. It is a very homey sound to me because I was there forever. It also, if I'm away in a different town and hear a train, it's a homey sound. So yes, they'll get you as far as you trying to get across the tracks, but I think train, if we have a lot of trains, that means the country's doing well. So I'm not going to poo-poo trains too bad.
Does that help?
May I respond?
Yes, does that help you?
I'm not moving.
We do have an underpass, though.
And an overpass.
Which I normally
How
take.
many towns in town have an underpass and an overpass?
I know, we got it all.
We got it all. Okay, I saw Missy Marshall, who is the director of the state Keep Tennessee Beautiful. And I've known her for some time, and I've invited her to Tullahoma. She will be here on November the 1st. And we will be hosting a lunch in order to use her visit to Tullahoma as a keynote address, really, to kick off a more clean and green Tullahoma. So I'm hoping all of you can attend. She's been in this business for many, many years, and I've asked her to give us sort of some best practices that other communities are doing to have a clean and green community, a more clean and green community. I'm convinced that 99% of us want to live in a clean and green community. November the 1st, 11:45, D.W. Wilson Community Center. By request, I've got 3 items to take off of the consent agenda if there's no objection, and we're going to move it to under new business. Item number 3, 19137, approve an agreement between Clark Creative Communication Services and the City of Tullahoma for downtown Tullahoma branding project. Number 9, item number 19143, accept the list of streets of the city's fall paving and street repair program with work to be contracted under the existing agreement with Rogers Group for fiscal year 19 and 20. And number 12, 1946, approve a grant application to the Tennessee Department of Transportation, Transportation Alternatives Program. So if there's no objection, we'll move those 3 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda for discussion and a vote. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so now we're ready for the city attorney's report. Mr. Worsham, please, sir. Welcome.
Good evening. Well, this Clean and Green initiative is something that goes hand in glove with my love for trees. As you know, I've spoken here before a lot of times about trees and how we need to preserve them and plant more here, and I'm glad that Ralph was here with the gentleman from Tyler Wakefield from the Department of Agriculture to talk about trees. That's something that I'm hoping that we as a board can vigorously pursue in terms of requiring the planting of more trees here and preserving the ones that we have and caring for them, because there's no doubt that they provide a lot of oxygen for our needs, and they're very beneficial to us in many, many ways. So I enjoyed that presentation and hope that we can have more thoughts along those lines. Secondly, you might recall that we had an executive session last week and we discussed a couple of matters there. They're going to be on the consent agenda. But I understand that one of the aldermen wants me to discuss a little bit an offer by a property owner here in Tullahoma to donate a downtown building to the city in settlement of litigation that's now pending against him. It's located on West Lincoln Street. It's a 2-story building, once housing Lydia's Dress Shop, if you all recall, a number of years ago. It's an attractive building. The front of it has been remodeled. However, it's deteriorating and bricks have been falling from the front of it to the street, so we've had to cordon off the area in front of that street to protect passersby from injury. We filed a lawsuit last year in Chancery Court under the Uniform Property Maintenance Code provisions of our city ordinance to require him to bring the building up to code or to demolish it. And we have, those are the two remedies that we have. That matter is now pending in Chancery Court. During a hearing earlier this year, when we were asking the court to allow us to obtain a key or obtain permission to go inside the building for inspection purposes, the owner of the building approached my law partner, Mike Gibbon, and inquired as to whether or not the city might be willing to accept that property as a donation from him rather than our continuing with the litigation. We feel pretty sure, and we feel, I believe he is pretty sure too, that we're going to prevail in the litigation because the property is in a deteriorating condition and has caused some leakage from its roof onto the adjoining property, and of course the bricks and things falling onto the street. So we did inspect the building with Mr. Scott St. John, the city engineer. We all went there, Mr. Giffen and I, and he, and I think others have been there too, and he rendered a report to Ms. Moody about the condition of the building. It's not irreparable. It can be repaired. It's going to be costly to do that. However, and it'd be costly to demolish it as well. But I asked Mr. St. John just one question. I said, Scott, you knowing what you do about this building, if someone were to offer it to you free, would you take it? He said, definitely I would. So that based upon his statement to me and my having viewed the building myself and having an interest in the restoration of downtown Tullahoma to its previous glory, as you all might recall, some of you, we've suggested that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen consider favorably his offer to donate this property to us. That would end the litigation. We would save the expenses of continued litigation. The only expense that we would have is that we'd have to pay the city taxes. He will be required to pay the county taxes on the building up to the date of the deed. We understand there may be some people in the community already interested in purchasing it. We're going to pursue that, of course, if we were to acquire it. And so tonight, if you all agree to that, and I'll answer any questions that I might, we're going to ask the board to allow the mayor to execute a document, a settlement agreement with the owner of the property. If we do not agree to this, then we'll pursue the litigation. There will be a hearing ultimately on that. The court will have to determine whether or not he's in violation of the codes of the city of Tullahoma. If the court determines that, then two things will occur as a result of that. Either he will be required to demolish the building or bring it up to code, one or the other. If he fails to do that, the city of Tullahoma will demolish the building and then can pursue the cost of that against the owner of the building or attach that to the property taxes and then acquire it through a property tax sale. So those are the alternatives. Our recommendation of mine and my law firm is that the city accept the offer to settle. Do you have any questions about that? Okay.
Very good.
I don't have, well, I do want to tell you, I think probably you all have noticed in the paper, but some people don't take the paper. That's a shame because we've got a new editor. He's doing a great job. It's really an interesting paper now. So if you don't subscribe to it, do that because I think you'll enjoy it. But the Manchester City Schools, the Board of Education, has agreed to dismiss their suit against the city that was in arbitration. This is the last of the litigation that we've been involved in for 5 or 6 years relative to the distribution of the liquor by the drink taxes that the city has been collecting for a number of years. As you know, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the city of Tullahoma and other municipalities in similar litigation in 5 cases, indicating that we don't have any responsibility sharing that income with Manchester or the Manchester City Schools. So that there was an arbitration case that was brought by the Manchester City Schools, in addition to the suit brought by the City of Manchester, which the Supreme Court ruled on. So now, realizing that they're going to lose that matter, they've agreed to dismiss it. So that's the matter is going to be at an end, and we're going to put it to bed and save about $500,000 now, plus future distributions as well.
Would you recommend that people go and get a drink to celebrate that?
You know, I'm a great believer in celebrations, any way you want to do it. I think that'd be a good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Worcester. So, Ms. Moody.
Just one item tonight. I wanted to invite the board to the next Planning Commission meeting. It's scheduled for October 21st. That's a Monday at 4:30. There will be a presentation at the beginning of the meeting on our community mobility plan. And it is the Planning Commission's role to adopt that plan if they wish to do so. And then it'll come before you as a resolution to support the plan. So if you'd like to do that, just wanted to make you aware.
4:30. 4:30.
Anything else?
That's it.
That's good, okay.
I have one more thing.
Yes, sir.
May I talk, please?
You're recognized.
Okay. Some of you, a lot of you probably know my daughter, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jamie is one of these individuals that, or who, will, if you have an animal and she finds that animal, she's going to adopt it. I don't care if it's cats. She's had a mouse, and she's had dogs, big old dogs, those big old huge things. She had 4 at one time, and they were fostered, and they ended up putting her in charge of the fostering of those animals, and now 2 of them have died, so she has 2. But the issue is this. Here's what happened. She ended up, and her husband decided that he was going to purchase some ducks. He felt like that those ducks would be an added change for around their house because they have a nice pool. So he ended up and he purchased some ducks. Well, they ended up laying. And my granddaughter, she decided, well, if I've seen that these things will hatch. So she decided she was going to try to hatch them. Well, she did. She hatched 7 of them. And then all of a sudden they went from 2 to 9 ducks. But in the meantime, one of those ducks ended up being attacked by 3 of the males attacked this female duck and broke her leg. She couldn't walk and was very, 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 uncomfortable trying to get around. Well, they kept checking it. She took it to the vet, and the vet looked at it and said, there's nothing we can do, so we need to amputate it. So they amputated the leg. And when they did, the duck just sit around all the time on a pillow. Knowing my daughter like I do, she decided, there's got to be something you can do. And so she went on Facebook and went on the email and everything and on the internet and found this guy who lives in Nashville, and he makes the prosthetic for the ducks. So he came to the house free of charge. He made that prosthetic. They put it on the duck's leg. It walks just like it had 2 legs, and Channel 2 and Channel 5 will be on the news tonight. That'll be on the news tonight. I told her, I said, Jamie, you get into more things than anybody I've ever seen. But Channel 2, they even called me and said, how can we get in touch with your daughter? And I said, well, I can give you your number. We want to go film it. And they did. So that'll be on the news tonight at 10.
Is this segment called Walks Like a Duck?
Walks like a duck. I'm not talking about you. You would be surprised. It couldn't walk a lick. And now it's on there, and you can't tell the difference. I mean, it gets it.
Well, that's a good story.
Good story.
That's a very good story. So, your daughter grew up in Tullahoma.
She did. She graduated from Tullahoma. She graduated from Vanderbilt. She got her physical therapy degree in California at Loma Linda University. She works for Vanderbilt Hospital now. But in between that, she adopts everything and lives. Yeah.
Well, my point was, she grew up in Tullahoma, so that's a good thing about Tullahoma.
That's a good thing.
That's a good
She's, I'm telling you, she's always loved this place.
See, I was waiting for the punchline, but there wasn't a punchline.
There wasn't.
I thought it was a joke.
I know, I did
The
too.
dog ate the
You thought I was
duck.
gonna say something stupid, didn't you?
Just wait.
Just wait, I noticed every one of you sitting there, y'all were just watching, like, what's coming here? Now, it's a true statement, and that duck, I've got a video, if y'all wanna see it in a minute, I'll show it to you. It's a video of the duck walking around, got his new foot. That was the first day she got it into the video. Now it's on its third or fourth day, and it really gets you, she said.
And that was going to be on TV.
TV. It was on TV this afternoon on Channel 2, and I didn't know it. And I said, why didn't you tell me? And she said, I don't know. But anyway, it'll be on there again tonight, and Channel 5 has it tonight.
Well, I'm going to.
And I'm sure that Channel 4 will end up with it,
I'm
too.
sure. And the Tennessean will be all over it, too.
See, I surprised you,
Maybe it's on the
didn't
news.
Yeah. That's a different story. You don't see that often.
No.
No.
Good story. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Mathis?
That's it, finally.
Okay, we've got several items left on the consent agenda. 19-135, the minutes of the September 23rd, 2019 regular meeting. 19-136, accept bids and approve bid award to VR Fence Company to install fencing valued at $8,340 at Johnson Lane Sports Complex. Number 4, item number 19-138, accept the mayor's reappointment of Lee Yoder for a 2-year term on the Tri-County Railroad Authority. 19-139, accept the mayor's appointment of Paul Schwer to the Tullahoma Planning Commission to fill the remainder of the unexpired term ending on October 26, 2020. 19-140, accept the mayor's appointment of Shelley Smith to the Tullahoma Planning Commission for a new 5-year term beginning on October 27th and ending on October 26, 2024. 19-141, authorize the mayor to accept a donation of real property located at 127 West Lincoln Street via settlement agreement with the owner, Mr. Roy Lee Roberts, Jr., and authorize the mayor to execute the same on behalf of the city of Tullahoma. 19-142, approve and authorize the city attorney to make an offer of settlement to Brindley and Sons regarding construction and final payment on the animal shelter project. 19-144, accept a 100% reimbursable grant award of $15,019.03 from the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security Community-Based Traffic Safety Enforcement Education Program for the Tullahoma Police Department. And 19-145, approve and authorize the purchase of 35 new tasers for the Tullahoma Police Department valued at $40,915 from Gulf State Distributors, a sole source provider in the southeastern United States. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Proper motion by Mr. Mathis, seconded by
Second.
Dr. Blanks. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, we do need a volunteer to make sure the tasers are working correctly.
I did that once on my 33rd birthday.
Why?
Well, liquor by the drink.
No volunteers?
Who's the duck?
Are you thinking about it, Mr. Norris? You've
I
not
was
said
thinking,
anything.
I think that, I really think that our new chief of police is doing a great job. And what a wonderful example it would be for him to set, to be that person. Thank you.
Do they each need tested or?
Either that or city administrator.
No. So, Mr. Williams, have you ever been tased before?
Yes, sir, 2 different times.
I hope for good cause.
Yes, sir. Once was to get certified to carry, and another time was for an instructor level course. So
wow.
I volunteered for the second one.
Okay. Is it as bad as they say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so we approved the consent agenda. We have no old business. Let's handle the couple of new items of new business, and then we'll go back and pick up the 3 that we carried forward. Ordinance number 1529, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Tullahoma, Tennessee to rezone 3 parcels addressed at 611 East Monroe Street on Mitchell Boulevard, 106 Mitchell Boulevard, from C2 to I1. This is the first of 2 readings. We earlier held a public hearing. No comments. The floor is open for a motion.
Motion.
A motion by Ms. Blackwell, seconded by Mr. Noes. Any discussion? First reading. All those in favor of the motion as presented, vote green. Opposed, vote red.
Who made the second? Sorry.
Said
Mr.
Noes.
Okay.
Motion passes 7-0. Next item, resolution number 1815, a resolution to adopt the City of Tullahoma North Jackson Streetscape Plan. Is there a motion to adopt the
So
resolution? Proper motion by Mr. Mathis.
Second.
Second by Ms. Blackwell. Any discussion?
A couple questions.
Yes,
What is
sir.
this, any immediate impacts on this? Are there any, or is this just, we're not gonna immediately go out and have new zoning issues or tell people they gotta put certain
No.
things in, or this
Ms.
is
Moody?
just?
No, we wouldn't. It affects our decision-making and our planning processes. And the most immediate impact is on a grant that we have for Cedar Lane to complete some sidewalks along North Jackson, William Northern, and down Cedar Lane, connecting into our trailhead. And so we'll incorporate some of their recommendations in that design. And then it's my intent to go back and look at key intersections and see how we can get started at, for instance, the intersection at William Northern. How can we just further complete that project so that it meets the design guidelines of the plan? And that's what I thought we would do. Start at major intersections, make those focal points, and then fill in the gaps in between.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All those in favor of Resolution 1815 as presented, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, let's go back and pick up 19137, approve an agreement between Clark Creative Communication Services and the City of Tullahoma for a downtown Tullahoma branding project. Prior to any discussion, let me get a motion and a second on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Proper motion by Dr. Blanks.
Second.
Second by Ms. Dunn. Ms. Moody, let me call on you for
Take one and pass it on.
a handout.
Thank you. This gives me an opportunity just to review this with you. This contract is related to a $15,000 grant that we have from the Tennessee Downtowns program. That program is sort of an incubator program that helps us grow into a Main Street community. And the first step, what we'd like to do with this grant is use half of the money for some design work to develop a brand, maybe a logo for our downtown, and then the second half of the money for some type of physical improvement. So that could be wayfinding signage or banners. That's what we have in mind. But we'll firm that up as we work with Clark Creative to develop the design. The agreement had a couple of changes on it, and that's why tonight I passed out a revised agreement. I'll just walk through what those are. The first one is we've updated it to show the mayor's signature and the city attorney's stamp. Shelley Smith is our downtown coordinator, and she'll be the point of contact, the primary point of contact, but of course the mayor's the only one authorized to sign these agreements. And then missing from the first packet was Appendix A, which shows you how their service fees are broken out. And we've also added in Part 3 under agency compensation that their fees are not to exceed $7,500. So that's consistent with our grant application. And then we increased the billing procedures. That was a minor change to increase it from 10 days to process an invoice. We gave ourselves 30 days. And then the governing law. Frequently in there, a company will put their state, and we may get to change it to Tennessee, of course. So those are the changes. Nothing controversial, but wanted to make you aware.
Very good. Everybody clear?
I still have the question. I've seen the work, I think they'll do great work. But I still have kind of the question of, there's nothing in here that actually says what they're delivering. So at the end of $7,500, what can we expect?
Right. Maybe the one piece that is not in the packet is the request for proposals. So we were maybe more clear in the request for proposals about what the scope of work is, but it's generally some design work to come up with a brand or a logo for downtown Tullahoma, and then to translate that new brand into some kind of physical improvement, whether it's, we'll see how far we can stretch the money, but most likely we're looking at either banners that we'll hang or some type of wayfinding signage for the downtown.
Does that include creation of the banners and the wayfinders, or does that?
Not in their contract, but
Yes,
it's,
okay.
but the
But
other
the design of it.
7,500 we're thinking will be for the.
Got it.
Is the,
It's like a set sheet.
because I mean, I do see it, and when we read the agenda item that we're approving, it says, these are specifically the things that we're approving that money for. Should that be attached to this as a separate exhibit so that there's some way? I mean, are we gonna be able to come back, say we give them $7,500, and in 12 months, we got maybe a logo. Did we pay $7,500 for that logo? Is there any way for us to come back and say,
Well,
no?
my understanding
you were-"
is it's not a lump sum fee. We're not saying we're gonna pay them a flat 7,500 for services, but we've made it clear that we won't spend more than that. And then that Exhibit A has some of their rates for different services they provide. I think that Shelley Smith will be managing the project, so she'll be watching their billable hours and make sure that, they're not billing us and we're not getting good design work from those hours. I forgot. There you are, you're behind the podium. If you'd like, I can ask Shelley Smith to come up and talk a little bit about what we've hired Clark Creative to do.
I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'll be working hand in hand with Clark Creative every step of the way. They're going to be reporting to me. We're working together on a daily basis. I, for many years, owned a small business in downtown Savannah in Georgia, and so that was during the recession, and so I learned the hard way not to pay anyone for anything that you could do yourself. And I was not able to afford to do the marketing and design and branding and the web design. Wasn't able to afford anyone else to do that, and so I had to learn to do a lot of that myself. So I understand very well how that can get away from some people in some instances, but it's my job as a contract employee of the city to make sure that that does not happen. They're very excited about this job. I'm very excited to see what they come up with. They have some very fresh perspectives on our downtown area. And so we will continue to monitor and work with them very closely. And it's not as though we're going to just give them a blank check and have them come back to us in a couple of months with that lump sum. As Ms. Moody pointed out, that is a cap on the design services. So we are not obligated to hit that $7,500 mark. We might come up with a logo that we think, and some ideas that we think we can run with as early as next week, 2 weeks. We're hoping to kickstart this program, and all we need now is just to have sort of the marketing assets, the name, the logo that we can get behind. I was going to say the banner to get behind, but you don't take me too literally on that. So it's very exciting, and I'm happy to come to any meetings and answer any questions anytime. I have some business cards if you ever want to call me or email me. I'm happy to talk to you about the downtown project, whenever's good for you.
Everybody okay?
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I've seen some work that they've done, that Ms. Smith has furnished with. They do excellent work, and I think they'll be a very good choice for us. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how you look at it, I was in Vermont last week and didn't get home till late yesterday afternoon, so I didn't get a chance to review this contract with Ms. Moody prior to the meeting tonight. I just consulted with her, I hope not rudely, about a change that I suggest in paragraph 6 of the agreement, that we did amend the bid by telephone, but I hadn't read it all. And I suggest that we change the wording to this, if I might read it to you, that we'll incorporate that into the agreement. This agreement shall be governed by the laws of the state of Tennessee, and both parties shall submit to the jurisdiction of the state and federal courts and seek remedy by court-sanctioned mediation prior to resorting to litigation.
So replace arbitration with mediation?
Yes.
Right. Let's see, who made that motion?
Blanks and then seconded by Dunn.
Are you okay with the change?
I'm okay with that.
You're okay, all right, so. Any other discussion?
I know you're fully capable, and I respect your ability to keep them on task. I'm still just kind of uncomfortable with not, when I leave here tonight and go have dinner and somebody asks me what you're gonna get for that contract, what'd you spend our money on?
So
I know we're not technically spending it,
So
but
this grant is administered through the Tennessee Main Street program, and it's very explicit in the grant allocation and what the money that we've received can be spent on. So they're very specific that they are giving us this money and we have to spend it on design services.
7,500 of it, right? And then the
Yes.
other half has to go to physical signs or
Correct.
not just design.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I had a copy of the grant. Okay. I just don't want to end up with a $1,000 logo or a $2,000 logo, and
I understand. So.
which I run a media company,
Right.
so
I
it
completely
concerns me in
understand.
that sense. Is that
Aren't you my point of contact with the downtown parade?
I am.
So would you like to schedule regular weekly meetings and we can go over the progress and if at any time?
If the mayor, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, good idea.
I would, yeah.
I would enjoy that.
Mr. Worsham, do we need to have a motion to accept your change, or can we just do that verbally?
I believe we can do that verbally, because though you're going to be agreeing on the contract, and I've just announced the change, and that's of course on the record, so I think that's all we need.
Okay. All right, other discussion? You ready to vote as verbally amended? Vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, the next item, accept the list of streets for the city, item 19-143, accept the list of streets for the city's fall paving and street repair program with work to be contracted under the existing agreement with Rogers Group for fiscal year 19 and 20. So let me get a motion and a second on the floor.
Motion.
Open motion by Ms. Blackwell, seconded by Ms. Dunn. Ms. Moody. There's actually a pretty neat step that Mr. Taylor and his team go through to identify what streets need to be paved, and perhaps that's what, is that what you're handing out, some version of that?
Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to use this opportunity. I had some questions earlier today from a couple of aldermen, and I think it's also probably citizens are interested in hearing the process for how we select the streets. And this list of proposed streets is for our spring paving. It is possible that we may be able to get some streets paved this fall before asphalt plants close, but the remainder of the work, whatever isn't done, will happen next spring. So to start, I passed out a few handouts, and I'm sorry I couldn't get these onto a slide before tonight for the public to see, but I'll just describe the process. The way it starts is our public works staff, Butch Taylor, John West, and our city engineer, Scott St. John, they'll review the streets, the quality of the streets. They'll drive every street in the community. And that happens every 3 to 5 years. And they will give ratings. And so the first sheet I have in front of you is just a sample of what a rating sheet looks like. What you can't see is that behind each of these boxes, where they're marking the level of distress or the quality of the road, the drainage, the maybe cracking at the edge, different variables. Behind that are formulas that are helping to generate what the material costs for repair would be. Additionally, they look at things like traffic volume, and this helps generate a rating. And so that's in the kind of box to your top right. The one in front of you is just a sample, and it has a rating of 580. That number, the higher the number is, the worse the quality of the street, okay? So then I want to show you, go to the next page, and this is a spreadsheet of all the streets in Tullahoma. And this is just the very top ranking. So you can imagine this spreadsheet continues on for several pages. But I wanted to show you, this is the top ranking street. If you take the bundle at the top, you see Cedar Lane, several portions of Cedar Lane. All of those fell out to a score of 580. That was our worst score. When you go to the next group, you start to see some more residential and collector streets. Their score was a 560. I don't know this for a fact, but my assumption is that the volume of traffic on Cedar Lane makes that 20-point difference. But in general, they are equivalent in terms of disrepair or the need for resurfacing. What we decided to do is take all of the Cedar Lane and projects and group those together as a capital project. And maybe I should have said this to start with, because cost is obviously a limiting factor here, right? We budget $300,000 in Public Works street paving budget annually, and then we have $118,000 left in our capital budget this year to put towards it. So roughly $400,000. So when we're looking at this list, we're also paying attention to that total cost column, and we're limiting the number of streets to the budget. So Cedar Lane, when you take all of those collectively, it would have spent the entire $418,000 for resurfacing. So we said that's really its own capital project. It's not less of a priority, it's still a top priority, but it really needs probably to be funded as a capital project out of a future bond issuance or something like that. So that's why you've got that black line that I show you there. We went down to the next tier of streets. We went as far down the list as we felt like we could afford with the money we had. We also, when you go to the next page, there's a picture of the Cedar Lane project for the future. Just wanted to make you aware of that. And then page 4, the proposed list. We looked at where these projects are in terms of the city's quadrants. That's not a criteria that we look at for ranking streets, but I think we like to just double check and see, are we taking care of streets in every area of the city? Are we taking a kind of a fair and balanced approach to how we're spending the paving money? And we noted the quadrants for you in the agenda packet. And then I also provided you a list of the streets that were paved in spring of last year, just so you have that. And you can see the quadrants are listed there too, so the money was spread throughout the community. But that's, in very brief summary, that's how we arrived at the list of proposed streets.
Very good. Any questions, any comments?
One quick question. 130 comes in from Shelbyville, and it also continues out towards Winchester. Those are state roads. Where do they cease being state roads?
Can you answer that?
Okay, 130 going out.
Well, will you come up to this microphone? Sorry.
Oliver Blanks, would you restate that question again? Sorry.
130, I guess it's east and west or north and south. Old Shelbyville Highway and Old Winchester Highway. I know it probably ends at Wilson Avenue, the state portion.
You're correct on the northwesterly, if you want to call it, 130 out by your.
Right, and then the southeast section.
The southeast stops at Clement Drive or at the funeral home.
Okay.
And turns and goes to Jackson Street.
Really?
At some point in time, there was a trade-off. I can't remember if it was the bridge on West Lincoln. That's going back a ways from my memory. But there was a trade-off of that section of West Side Drive. I can't remember the particulars on it. I just don't remember.
So where does it pick up, at Clement Drive?
Yes, 130 stops, but if you're coming in from out of town, it stops right there at, and turns and goes up to Jackson Street on Clement.
What I'm getting at is if we could get them to pave some of Cedar Lane, but we can't.
We actually got some free striping, believe it or not, because there was still some confusion on the state's part of that.
Stripe on.
Kind of, sort of, and they went up Lincoln Street, so didn't complain one iota about that to the state.
130 went up Lincoln Street?
No,
for a
the
while?
striping, the stripers got confused, and we got some free striping out of it, so.
Bless their hearts.
But that, I can't remember that trade-off. It was some time ago, but there was a trade-off of that for whatever reason. I think it had to do with the bridge replacement on West Lincoln many years ago, but don't hold me to that because it's a long way back.
Thank you.
Other discussion, questions?
Good work on this. Did you say this was for spring or fall? Should we change the motion?
We're hopeful that we can get some of these streets paved this fall before asphalt plants close, but the bulk of it will probably be in the spring.
So I always ask the city administrator when I see the list to assure that that paving is done throughout the community. And in years past, it was concentrated typically in one segment more than one quadrant more than another. Was my impression. So I think it's important that paving be spread around. And I also asked Ms. Moody, and she and Mr. Taylor or someone did a study on, when I was first elected mayor in 1993, we were appropriating $250,000 a year for paving. It's now up to $300,000. Woefully inadequate, So they did a study, and I don't know if you have it with you or not, but it shows that we need to be spending about $1 million a year on paving. I mean, a huge jump. So I just ask that each of us keep that in mind as we appropriate monies for the next fiscal year budget.
Shop Tullahoma.
That we've got to be spending more to maintain the streets. You know, I typically get, and perhaps you do as well, as I move around the community, the number one request by far is for sidewalks. By far is sidewalks. But second, our observations about some of the streets in Tullahoma and the repair of streets. And I'm quick to emphasize that Public Works does the absolute very best that they can with the resources given to them. I mean, we're the ones that provide the resources, and they're the ones that take care of it. So I just encourage you to keep the discussion in mind as we move forward for the next fiscal year. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second on the floor. We're ready to vote on item number 19143. All those in favor of the motion is made, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. One additional item number 19146, approve a grant application to the Tennessee Department of Transportation Alternatives Program. Let me get a motion and a second on the floor for discussion. Motion's by Mr. Berry, second by Ms. Blackwell. Ms. Moody.
So, very relevant after the last discussion. TDOT grants, TDOT gives grants for transportation projects, and they also sometimes give grants for alternative modes of transportation. And that's what this is. This is the Transportation Alternatives Grant Program. The maximum that you can request is $1 million. We're very close, requesting just under that for a project that would primarily improve South Anderson Street between East Lincoln and East Carroll. And then it would also improve the intersection at East Carroll and bring it up to not only ADA standards, but just safe pedestrian crossing standards with striping and, push-button pedestrian heads. And the way that we've been selling it, and I think a lot of people selling it to TDOT, is making the connection between East Lincoln Elementary and our Hands-On Science Center. But I just wanted to emphasize that we do have existing sidewalk on East Lincoln and some on East Carroll, but in terms of, it's kind of a story that we're telling about connecting the two. I think the major improvement we would see is at that intersection, making it very safe, and then adding in safe, improving some of the driveway connections, the curb, the drainage, and sidewalk on South Anderson. So when I look at projects like this, I guess just another thing that I'd like to add is the length of time it takes for any grant or any project that's funded through TDOT is a minimum of 5 years. And that's because you've got to get through 4 phases. You have to get through an environmental phase, which can take up to 2 years. Then you can start your design and engineering and right-of-way phase, and then eventually you get that notice to proceed to construction. And so what I think about is it a project that we couldn't otherwise fund, and is it a project of such significance that it makes it worth the 5-year wait? And I think this project is like that. I'm not sure that we could ourselves afford $1 million for this improvement, but we can certainly fund an 80-20 project where the state's funding $800,000 to $850,000 and we're putting in $200,000 or $250,000. So I hope that helps, give some background.
Good explanation. Any questions, any discussion?
I'll say I stood out there on the corner during the elections and waved, and they desperately need some little bit. I mean, I'm a little bigger, but there needs to be more room out there for.
I agree. That's what I kept saying. It's a major gateway into our, not only the downtown, our entire community. It's also, I know, well-traveled for those of you that go out to UTSI or AEDC. I think some improvements at that intersection I'd be really excited to see. And I think the community would support it because this project, another reason it was selected is it was the priority intersection identified in our community mobility plan. So when citizens came out and asked for improvements, this one was the most frequently requested intersection in the city.
So it certainly got Ms. Moore's attention. She's a major property owner along Anderson Street, so that would be very nice to get that done. Anything else, other discussion?
When will we know if we're approved or not?
Unfortunately, it is not until next September. So the deadline for this was October of this year, and we won't be notified of awards until next September.
That'll be a surprise.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor of item number 19-146, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Ms. Moody, any other new or old business I skipped over?
No.
All right, we will adjourn and go into the beer board portion of the agenda. First on the agenda is 19 BB 37 beer application on and off premises permit for new business, Phase 2 Bar and Grill located at 311 South Anderson Street. Owner and manager, Mr. Ashley. Ansley? Ashley?
Do you want to do the minutes first?
Yeah, I think I will. Well, since I've already gotten into this, I'll back up. My fault. So, Mr. Ashley, are you present? Okay. Welcome. If you would step to the podium. Welcome. So, have you received a copy of the beer laws of Tullahoma?
Yes, sir. I have.
You've read those?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions at this time? You understand the
Little
sale?
horse.
I'm sorry?
Little
Oh, okay. So, you understand the sale of beer is a very important responsibility in Tullahoma. What experience do you have in the retail sale of beer in Tullahoma?
Well, it's been I've been in it all my life. My grandmother had Bay's Cafe, and she's recently passed away several years back. Her business was ran after she retired by my aunt, and I think it was like 38 years. So, I was a previous bar owner once back in 2010. Me and my wife split up. And, we had a pretty good business. Hardly any trouble. And I think the city needs something else, a little bit more to go to,
So what do you have in place that will assure us that beer will not be sold to minors?
Well, I've got a lady that's doing a lot of my book work and stuff. Has already got lined up to have all my employees have ABC license, and we're going to be coming down and doing a big training together. And we're going to have security, you know. We also have security cameras put installed and stuff up on the approval. And, you know, there'll be a lot of ID checks. And at one time, I had a computer system that would scan the IDs and stuff like that.
So you're saying you no longer have that
That
system?
was 10 years ago, but we are in process of purchasing that.
Okay, good, good. I don't think, Ms. Golden, I don't recall that we've had an on and off premise very often.
Not very often.
Yeah. So, so is it a combination of a bar and a store?
And a grill. Well, from my understanding, it also allows to get into some of the events in the city of Tullahoma. And I'd like to participate in that, you know.
Sure. Yeah. So you will not be selling beer out of your facility, out of your business, that people are going to take off premise and open? Oh, okay. All right, I misunderstood.
Your business can move, like go to
Right.
South Jackson or wherever.
Right.
Taste of Tullahoma.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. So, let me, any questions that you have?
No, sir.
Let me get a motion and a second on the floor for any other discussion that might take place.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Dr. Blanks.
Second.
Second by
Somebody.
Mr. Barry.
Not me.
Okay.
Or, I'll take it.
So, does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I guess I don't know that I know that the off-premise, is that right? Is that,
Wouldn't that just be a special permit, would be
yeah,
my
with the-
thought is,
yeah.
you don't get them both now, you'd have a
Right, isn't
special
that- I mean,
permit for the
like,
event.
The Chamber of Commerce is doing the Taste of Tullahoma with a thing tonight, right? They're just doing a special permit.
Just my understanding is that the beer license is per location.
Okay.
It is location-based.
Yes.
So when it's off-premise, it's usually talking about
The gas station.
growlers or package liquor that you're
Yeah.
carrying
Yes, absolutely.
off-site from that one location. So I'm not sure that it would assist you with special events, but we do have a separate process, and I don't know if having an off-premise, I don't know that that's relates or assists you in the special event permitting. No.
So we do want you to participate in community
Yes.
events, and you're welcome to do so, but this off-premise is, there's another step involved to do that. Now, I think what Ms. Golden was saying is that this, will you be selling growlers there?
Growlers?
Right.
That's a bigger, like a,
Pardon me?
Yeah. A growler is like what you see in a lot of craft beer places.
It's bigger than a 40.
Allows you to carry it home.
Oh, no.
I don't want this to slow the process down, but based on what he said, does he need an off-premise?
Not unless he's gonna be selling the growlers, which are craft beer jugs that are sealed, can't leave unsealed. And
Well,
then the
it's-
second
Yeah.
would be like a six-pack of beer.
Can we just
But
amend
you're
the
not going to do
motion?
that, you said. So would it save him money if he does not have a off-premise license, or is it the same thing?
Same.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just the title.
Just trying to save you a little money. Okay. Any other comments?
Should we,
now if he wants off premise, he can have it. He won't have to come back and get off premise if he decides he wants it. He'll have it.
But it refers
They do
to a
growlers.
six-pack leaving or a growler leaving your physical
is that gonna
location.
require additional steps on his end after this? Other
Yeah.
legal hoops he's gonna have to go through, that
Yes,
he
if he-
wouldn't if we took that off and
If-
just did on?
If you take the off, he would have to resubmit his application and pay more money.
So we might as well leave it the way it is.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But understand that it
Okay.
does not allow you to go to an event
Okay.
and sell beer. You have to
Okay.
do a special
Do a
event.
special. I get some
Gotcha.
information on that.
Okay, so that, yeah, I mean, I would
We
leave
need
it
to check with
on.
Ms. Golden.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other discussion?
Good, good.
Other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, permit Mr. Ashley on and off premise to vote green, opposed to vote red. Motion passes 7-0. There you go. Oh, congratulations. All right, 19 BB 38, beer application special event permit nonprofit for the Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce, Station of Tullahoma on Thursday, October 17th. Ms. Hope Sarton will be the manager in charge of beer sales for the special event. Consider waiving the special event beer permit fee. So, Ms. Few, unless you want to talk, you probably don't need to, but we'll see. Is there a motion to?
So moved.
I have a motion, Mr. Mathis. Do you agree to waive the fee?
I do.
Okay.
Second.
Waive the fee. Waive the fee. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the motion, vote green. Opposed, vote red. There you go, Ms. Few.
All right,
You didn't have to
that
say
was simple
anything.
enough.
Unless you wanted to talk. Do you want to talk?
I would like to personally invite everybody out to Taste of Tullahoma, happening on downtown, or at downtown. It'll be on West Lincoln Street. We are shutting down the street from London's down to the Veranda House. We have several vendors that are coming out, and it's gonna be a really great time. So kids 10 and under get in for free, and then anybody over 10, it's $15. And make sure you bring your IDs so that you can do a little sampling. All
Very
right.
good. Good announcement. Thank you.
IDs.
So, before we adjourn, I made a mistake. Yeah, no, that's what we're getting ready to do. So, we've got one consent agenda item, 19-8 VB36, minutes of the September 23rd Beer Board meeting. All those in, is there a motion to adopt?
Motion.
Second. Motion by Ms. Blackwell, seconded by Mr. Noes. All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, vote green.
Almost gets
Opposed, vote
messy at
red.
the end. We all get tired, punchy.
Motion passes 7-0. Any other business? Seeing none, we are adjourned.